Hi everyone, my name is May Park. Welcome to another video tutorial in my blog and YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to use a stencil and embossing paste to add some texture and interest in your project. I'm also going to share the behind the scene video at the end, so stay tuned. This video is part of Alternate June 2017 release blog hub celebrating a release of new stencils. Make sure to check out my blog for more details and leave a comment on my blog hub post for a chance to win a $30 gift certificate to Alternate online store. I'm going to give you a quick preview of new stencils. If you don't want to watch, feel free to skip this part to jump on the card making process video. Now I'm going to turn on some music while I'm showing you the new products, and I'll be back soon. Here are some of my practice pieces. You can use a stencil with embossing paste to add some dimension and texture, or you can combine a stencil with colored inks to create a colorful background. Back in March, I created a card with some ombre background by mixing ink sprays with embossing paste. This time, I'm going to create a subtle background with a hint of color and shimmer. I'm going to use the grid stencil for today's project. I'm cutting down the top of my stencil packaging using Timo's paper trimmer. That way, I can easily pull out my stencil out of the original packaging while I'm keeping the insert card inside. I'm going to use craft cardstock for my card base. Then I'm going to draw a guideline using a pencil and A2 size cardstock. You don't have to do this, but I just wanted to make sure my embossing paste is only applied inside the A2 card frame. Depending on where you place your stencil, you can create a different look. I'm going to place my stencil at an angle to create some movement. I'll be taping my stencil over my cardstock using washi tape. This prevents the stencil from shifting when applying the paste. If the stencil moves around, you will not get a good result because you might lose the delicate image of your stencil design. I'm going to use Windy Feki embossing paste today. I recommend you use the heavyweight cardstock so it can hold the weight of embossing paste nicely. So here I have embossing paste and spatulas. If you don't have a spatula, you can use a plastic knife or expired credit card. If you want, you can tint your embossing paste using ink sprays, watercolor pens, ink pads, markers at this process. Then I'm applying the embossing paste with a spatula of the stencil toward one direction. You can apply your embossing paste of the entire background or partial area. I forgot to do that, but I recommend you put the lid back on the container right away because embossing paste can dry out quickly. If you don't have texture paste or embossing paste, you can make your own at home. Just Google homemade embossing paste, then you can easily find tons of recipes. I used to make my own embossing paste using baking soda and white acrylic paint. It worked almost the same. When you apply your embossing paste using a stencil, it's always good to work with a large cardstock rather than A2 card size. Depending on how much paste you apply, you can adjust the dimension. When you use the delicate stencil, you better take time to apply your embossing paste. If you work too fast, you may ruin your project as the embossing paste can smear under the stencil. I'm going to make sure to go all over the desired surface with my spatula to make it smooth. So here is the most fun part. I'm going to lift the stencil straight up off the cardstock to reveal the stenciled image. Once you remove the stencil, I recommend you clean off your stencil and spatulas, otherwise you will have trouble taking off the embossing paste once it's dry. While the embossing paste is wet, I'm going to apply some alternate translucent pearl embossing powder over my stenciled background and tap off the excess. By the way, I'm using a prototype of alternate embossing powder, so the labeled name is different from the store and there's no alternate brand label attached on the container. I'm going to use my paintbrush to flick away any embossing powder from sticking to unwanted areas. I'm also using my craft knife to remove the excess embossing paste. Then I'm going to set it aside for about 15 minutes to dry. While drying my embossing paste, I'll be working on my focal image. Since I'm going to heat emboss my image, I chose some heavyweight vellum cardstock so I can avoid my vellum from warping. To create a heart shape, you can use the half-tone circle stamp and cut out the image using a heart die. Or you can use the half-tone heart stamp and cut out the image using a heart die or scissors. In this video, I'm going to use the half-tone circle stamp set from Altunium. I'm prepping a piece of vellum cardstock with Inka embossing magic powder bag. I'm mounting the half-tone circle stamp on my acrylic block and inking on my stamp with the first mark watermark ink. I'm going to apply some Altunium golden peachy embossing powder and tap off the excess. Again, I'm using a prototype, so the labeled name on the embossing powder container is different from the one in the Altunium store. I'm going to preheat my embossing gun for about 10 seconds until it reaches its maximum temperature. Then I heat set the circle image with my heat tool until it's completely melted. I'm going to cool down my paper for a few seconds to avoid smearing the embossing. Then I'm going to pull out the heart die from Heroart's Heart's Infinity die set. I'll place my die and secure it in the center of my heat embossed circle image using washi tape, so it don't move while die cutting. After placing my die and paper between cutting plates, I'll be running the die through my Spellbinder's Platinum die-cut machine. Don't you just love the shimmer and texture on the heat embossed half-tone heart? It's simply amazing. After my embossing paste is almost dry, I'm going to melt the embossing powder using my heat tool. You can just leave it like that if you want to, but once you heat the sparkle embossing powder, you can achieve a totally beautiful look. Since my embossing paste is not completely dry, it creates some bubbles, which I think it looks so cool. I'm going to cut down my panel into slightly smaller than A2 card size using Tmall's tonic paper trimmer. Here I have Altunium 120 pound white cardstock measured at 4¼ inch by 11 inch, and I'll be scoring at 5½ inch using Martha Stewart mini scoring board and bone folder to make an A2 size top folding card. Next, I'm going to attach my panel onto the A2 card base using 3M foam tape to give some dimension. I'm going to use the sentiment from the half-tone heart stamp set. I'm treating a piece of black cardstock with Inka embossing magic powder bag, inking up the stamp with the birthmark ink and stamping them onto the paper. I'm going to apply some alternate white embossing powder over the paper and tap off the excess. I'm using my small paintbrush to flick away any stray powder. Then I heat set my sentiment with my heat tool until it's completely melted. I'm going to cool down my paper for a few seconds. I'm using Kleenex to remove any anti-static powder. Next, I'm going to trim my sentiment into a skinny banner using a craft knife and ruler. I'll be mounting my die-cut heart and sentiment banner on my card front using foam tape. I'm also adding some silver metallic thread behind my die-cut. I'm using my T-square ruler to place my sentiment banner in straight. That finishes off my card. I decide to decorate inside my card and back of the card using the sentiments from the Crafted Friends stamp set. I'm also going to make some matching envelopes. Since I have mini Misty stamping tool, I was able to stamp the sentiment on each flap of 50 envelopes in 30 minutes. I hope this video tutorial inspires to create a card with embossing paste and stencil. If you have any questions, please leave comments below and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Before I go, I'm going to pull the camera back to show you how my craft desk looks like off the camera. I use my iPhone 6 to film my videos. I'm a messy crafter as you can see here. I push everything aside to each side of my desk until I finish my project. I try to clean up my workspace at the end of a project, but not always. My creative brain works best in a messy space. How about you? Do you clean up your desk when your project is done? What does your desk or craft space look like at the moment? Please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. That's all for today. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss any new video from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time with another video. Bye bye!